All right, tonight we are pulling back the covers on something that is, believe it or not, way more common than you think. But it's one of those things we just don't really talk about. We're talking about nocturnal enuresis. You probably know it as bedwetting. So let's get into it.
Look, let's just get right to it. This is the big question, right? And yeah, it's a personal one. But honestly, to even begin to understand this, we have to start right here.
And you gotta love the answer from our source material. It's kind of funny. It's like, who, me? Nope, couldn't be. But then it immediately turns around and points at the rest of us, basically saying, yeah, for humans, this is a thing.
And that's really the core of it all, isn't it? It happens way more than people will ever admit. There's this huge gap between how often it happens and how often we're willing to talk about it. So let's break that silence. Why does this even happen in the first place?
Okay, so let's break down the reasons why, and we'll start with the group we usually think of when we hear about this, kids. So what is actually going on?
You know, I love how this slide puts it. It's all about brain-bladder teamwork. For kids, this isn't some behavioral problem. It's just biology. Think of it like the brain and the bladder are trying to set up a new phone line. Well, in kids, that line is still being built. The brain hasn't quite figured out how to answer that middle-of-the-night call from the bladder that says, hey, I'm full. It's a connection that just needs a little more time to get solid.
But what about adults? Because this isn't just a kid thing, and when it happens later in life, the reasons can be pretty different.
Yeah, for adults, it's a little more complicated. It could be something as simple as you're just a really deep sleeper and your brain just sleeps right through the alarm. Stress is another huge one. It can mess with the hormones that control how much urine you make at night. And of course, sometimes it can be a signal of some other medical thing going on, which is why it's always a good idea to chat with a doctor about it.
This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. On one side, you've got kids, where the whole system is basically under construction. The wiring is still being connected. Then on the other side, you have adults. The system is built, it's all there, but things like stress or just being knocked out cold can cause like a temporary signal drop. It's the difference between building the network and just having a little static on the line.
Okay, so we've got the biology down, but what about the human reaction? This is where it gets really interesting. It's less about why it happened and more about that, oh my gosh, what now feeling.
So, if it's so common, how do we react when it happens? What's the go-to line?
And there it is, our source totally nails this universal human instinct for denial. We immediately try to frame it as a freak accident, a one-off thing that will never, ever happen again. It's a nice little story we tell ourselves, even if, the mattress might tell a different story.
And that kind of brings us to our last and maybe most important question. We've established this is a normal thing that happens to millions of people for totally understandable reasons. So why is it still such a big, embarrassing secret? It really makes you think about how we handle these things, about what we consider normal. Why are we still whispering about something that's so incredibly common?